Yeah, and I also think a lot of it has to boil down to the way that he kind of methodically went down the variations on time manipulation. Like, what if some things aren't affected by time, or what if if you walk left, time goes backwards. If you walk right, time goes forwards. Like the way that he just kind of brainstormed a list of, you can probably make these variations, and then methodically went down and implemented those variations was really
Well, if you ask him about it, he'd say it wasn't very methodical. Like he just tried stuff over and over again, but then it ended up covering sort of all that stuff.
well. I mean,
But yeah,
yeah, to me that sounds kind of methodical. It's just I just kept trying different ideas. Like
right.
he basically walked the possibility space as a designer and then applied some sort of criteria to it as a designer. Like, I tried this and my opinion as a designer is that it's kind of a fail, and then he would discard it.
Right. And that I think actually, so if I want to encapsulate what I think is innovative about Braid more than anything else, more than the specific mechanics or the specific puzzles in the game, I think it's actually the process he used to create it.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a really similar process that was used to create Portal. And
Yeah.
the same kind of rudimentary design process was applied, which I think is really fascinating. So I actually went and tried to steal what all the different pieces of Braid are, like to separate it out. I was playing through it the other day. Let's see if I can dig that out. I have like a Google Doc where I try to break it down just to try and look at what all the constituent parts are that are getting recombined.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do the same kind of thing for shadow physics. I wanted to think about what the focus of the game is and how to break it all down so that it made sense in a sort of intelligent way, and I could approach the design of it with a method, with some sort of idea that, okay, we're trying this now, and then we're going to try this, and we're going to try this, and if we get through with this and it doesn't work, then we cross off the list, and like what's the criteria for crossing off the list and stuff like that.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's probably a key component to experienced design is that you end up editing most of your stuff. I know that the World of Goo guys said that they made 5 levels for every one level that actually shipped with the game.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the ability
they went
to
crazy.
edit. Yeah, like the ability to have a large enough body of work and then to edit that is kind of what makes it really good. I think a lot of newbie designers, especially like students that are in some art institute style game design college or whatever, end up just they start to think about larger possibility spaces, and all they do is just kind of write down everything that comes to board. And that's how you always see these, my new game idea is this MMO plus FPS plus RTS plus this plus that. Like they
I actually
basically,
had that.
yeah, they basically
I'm
start.
sorry, I had that in my game design class the other day.
Yeah,
I
it's just like you
literally,
basically.
it was like, it was literally like, oh, I got this awesome idea. It's like an FPS MMO, but it's like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, you start
That
to
sounds
understand.
awesome.
Yeah,
Where do I buy
it does sound awesome if you have 500 people and $100 million.
Oh
Okay,
man!
here's my weird braid breakdown thing.
Oh, you pasted it to the chat.
Oh, I didn't get my diagram. Oh well,
Oh,
there was a diagram there. Well, but essentially it's just like, okay, what are the different elements that are getting recombined? And if you look at it that way, it's kind of interesting because every puzzle in Braid is comprised of some recombination of these elements. So what I did, I just made a matrix, and I just looked at the different intersections between the different elements and different like it's set up and the modifiers and stuff. It's not some like amazing revolutionary way of looking at it. It's just I was trying to wrap my brain around all the bits of that design and how to come to terms with them.
There's a pretty awesome Die by the Sword comment now in the chat talking about Die by the Sword. Die by the Sword is awesome, but yeah, mouse controlled sword combat was a hilarious failure. It really was, because in your mind you imagine that one for one sword control, I'm going to have the most delicate and awesome sword fight ever, and then in reality you like kind of turn left and turn right back and forth while you swipe left and swipe right. Just like that's the strongest thing to do.
Yeah, right. I mean the classic problem that Die by the Sword has is that there's a dominating strategy that makes all the other like interesting strategies not useful.
Yeah.
So maybe they could have fixed that by just making it so that if you swing the sword too fast back and forth like that, he just cuts his own head off.
Yeah,
or something.
I think part of the other problem is that real life sword fighting requires a ridiculous amount of agility and one control with a mouse. Like controlling a sword with your physical hand versus a computerized mouse, like you were losing fidelity with the mouse and not gaining any kind of fidelity. Like there was no real fly-by-wire kind of logic there where you would interpret, what you meant to do was kind of like dodge the sword and then poke them in the eye. They just kind of dumbly did one for one. But that game was way ahead of its time in terms of technology.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. I mean, Dive with the Sword I think is a good example of. That's for I just pasted something for Denver. That's my Portal breakdown. The same thing. I think Dive with the Sword is really interesting because it's an example of a game that isn't super successful as a game, but I think a lot of people look back on it and say, yeah, okay, that was an experiment, which while not successful was definitely totally interesting and led to a lot of interesting things. So there's a delineation there for sure.
Yeah, well, what's fascinating to me is I think Dive the Sword is still at the cutting edge of what people have even attempted in terms of like
Yeah.
one for one combat systems. Like it's oh man, it must be like 10, 12 years old now.
Yeah.
It's probably like 98, 99. Someone's going to Wikipedia it. But yeah, it's not like someone tried it and it was like, okay, here's how to iterate on that and like make it better. It's just nobody really cared enough to be like, oh, well, it's like the fighting games of today are not vastly dissimilar from like Street Fighter 2. What's your take on that, Ben? Why is Street Fighter 4 like a hyper modern console game still doing like quarter roll down to forward, hit a button for its input? Have we lost Ben?
Ben.
Oh no, sorry. I thought you were asking Steve.
No.
No.
Like, what's your take on that as like a Street Fighting aficionado?
I think that the original Street Fighter 2, as it got into like its second or third iteration, was still incredibly deep, and that there's enough depth there that I guess the formula doesn't really need a whole lot of change. Like people have been able to fall into this, I call it the rabbit hole, the Street Fighter rabbit hole for a long time, based on the same system. And it's just, I think with Street Fighter, it's the kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. I mean, a Street Fighter can get broken, but that's not so much an issue of controls as it is under the hood numbers. So, I mean, I've been playing the same game my whole life, and I've never really been like, well, I really wish it could be vastly different from what it is, because I've never mastered it, and very few people ever do. And it's just, I'm too concerned with mastering it that I'm not worried about it changing or desiring change. And for me, that's what it is.
Do you think there's a possibility that Evo like 2012 or 2015 or 2020 will actually have like a street fighting game that is not a bunch of sort of encoded button inputs, but like it's Evo is all the rage about like the new Natal Street Fighter game, or do you think it's still going to just kind of stick to its sort of perfect formula?
Yeah, I'm assuming it'll probably just stick to the formula. I mean, unless someone comes along and introduces a new way to have that incredibly deep system that you can never really master, then I don't see it really changing. I mean, there's variants of the formula. I mean, there's all these different series, but yeah, I mean, ultimately they're all really just doing the same shit with different aesthetics, and it's, I think, for all the reasons that I just said.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't imagine it being very different.
Okay, so if you'll permit me a little bit of a rant here, I actually think that the Natal PlayStation Wiimote, whatever all that stuff, chasing the heels of Nintendo because they've been outselling everyone by millions and millions of units, is pretty wrongheaded, because I think that one of the fundamental pleasures of playing a video game is making a very small motion with your thumb and getting a huge reaction from the game. And I think you really, really lose that stuff where you have to do all this full body, motion control stuff. I think that people are talking about it like it's going to be the next evolution of games, when I think it's just another branch on the tree. And I actually think that Nintendo got in there early enough and did a hell of a job of marketing, even though the Wii doesn't work all that well. And I think Microsoft and Sony are going to get burned hard trying to chase their tails.
I very much agree with you. I whenever I talk to people like about Natal or anything, I basically say it's the slap bracelets of the 2000s, because it's like a total fact. It really is. Like, you couldn't. There's only a couple games you can do as like motion controls that aren't irritating, gimmicky motion controls. And once you get past that, then it's just like boring and stupid shit that's just dumb.
Well, I was so upset that they stuck their Wiimote all up in my Metroid Prime. Like, it totally ruined the third game for me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just want to play Metroid Prime. Can I please use the fucking controller? I don't want to have to like stick the Wiimote forward and rotate it to open every switch and all this stuff. I'm just like, oh god. I mean, there were other problems with the design of that game where they tried to make it all Halo-y and awesome with all the characters and all this other shit, but Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems. Just the fact that you use the Wiimote or playing, Twilight Princess. I don't want to swing the fucking Wiimote every time I want to move the sword. I just want to press a goddamn button.
Yeah.
Why would I want to swing the Wiimote over and over again? It adds nothing to the game, and it takes away a significant amount.
And you're not like actually swinging it at that point. You're just kind of like, you have your hand up and you just kind of like just twitch your hand. It's like, yeah, it's just irritating. It's just dumb, irritating crap. And like, at least that's the thing, is like, at least the Wii remote is like something you have in your hands or whatever that has buttons on it. But like, if a game was totally Natal, there's like no buttons for Natal. So you just look like, I can't imagine anybody playing any sort of game on Natal and not feeling like a total retard, because you're just like standing and making weird motions in front of your TV, and it's just
Well, that's
it
the
just
point.
seems weird.
It does. I mean, it has a lot of benefits. It has what Catherine Isbister calls over-the-shoulder capture, where if somebody's playing with it, other people want to play with it too, and it has that sort of weird dynamic. But it's not playing a game the way that we think about playing a game.
Yeah,
It's a very different type of experience. It's not made for us. Maybe that's why we get so cranky about it, because it's clearly not made for our demographic.
but it's like well, I mean, they put the motion controls in Link or whatever. It's like the motion controls are for like non-gamer people that want Wii Fit and Wii Sports, and like old people that want to play bowling or whatever. But like old people aren't playing Legend of Zelda, so it's like
Right.
Don't put those in. It's just I'm glad Nintendo's like really, they're hands off with us. Like, because if they said, hey, you have to run, and whenever you want to make Meat Boy jump, you have to like jerk the controller upward, it would have been canceled for the Wii right after that phone call, because it's just like, I would in no way want anything to do with that. It's so horrible.
So some people in the chat are saying, oh, I liked Wii Sports and I liked Wii Fit, and that's totally legitimate. And I think, it's yes, they have completely dominated. The Wii has blown open the video game market in a way that people have been talking about and dreaming about for 10 years. I've been hearing people talk about how to get the mainstream interested in games for 10 years at the Game Developers Conference, and they figured it out. They did it. But I guess I played Wii Sports and I played with Wii Fit at Adam's house, and I've fiddled with all these things, and I like them and I see the appeal of them, but I just don't feel compelled to play with them or make anything like that. Like, I'm not interested in making another Wii Fit game, or something that's different from that, but it's that uses the same interface. Like, it doesn't hold a lot of interest to me. Like, I feel like we didn't need a revolution in the interface particularly. I feel like there's so many games yet that still need to be made. Like I said, I think it's a miracle when a really amazing game comes along.
Yeah.
Even if it's a one-button game or whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I returned. I kind of vanished. So Phil wants to come on the show. He's actually on my couch.
Phil Fish.
God damn it, Phil.
Let me see if I can bring him in here. The Fish Master. I call him Philippe.
That's his name.
Philippe Poisson.
Oh, he's not actually just going to go into the office.
Well, I have like a headset that's not so good for it.
Bonjour.
Oh, God.
Whoa.
Oh, Phil Fish.
What's up, monsieur?
Oh, there we go. Hello,
How's it
Philippe.
going, bro? How's Arizona?
Comment allez-vous?
What's that mean?
Hey,
Arizona
this
is
is
nice.
America, right?
I like it.
When you're in America, you got to speak American.
Yeah, this ain't no sissy French town. Why don't you go get me a baguette?
What does that rhyme with, Tommy? What does baguette rhyme with?
You guys are racist. It's totally wrong country.
So Phil, what's your take on the conversation so far? Because you were listening.
I couldn't understand because I was hearing you from the other room. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
The conversation was basically Street Fighter rules. Your thoughts?
I agree.
Nice.
Very good.
Discussion
Nice.
over.
I'm looking forward to fighting you, Ben Reese.
Oh, shit, son.
I remember beating you last year, I think, at some
No, you
point.
didn't.
A couple times.
No, you didn't
I
even
don't
once.
know.
I don't remember that.
That's not true.
What happened, Phil, actually, is that we were at the GDC. Am I echoing? What the hell is this?
Yeah, I think you're echoing from Phil.
Phil.
Actually, I
I'm
think
wearing headphones. I don't know how that works.
I'm echoing because this beautiful Mac, such a wonderful machine.
So we were having a TIG Source Community GDC Street Fighter tournament, and I was fighting Phil, and Phil accidentally taunted me, and I almost lost my shit.
What do you mean accidentally?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
because
sorry.
I played right before you.
I was playing
Phil,
mind games.
and then
Well,
you did a combination of buttons, and it just it taunted because my buttons were all weird.
okay. Well, in any case, Phil taunted me, and I almost lost my shit because that basically means it's code. It's fighting game code. Like if you're with a bunch of strangers and you taunt the person you're fighting, that means don't hold back. So I got really excited because I'm like, holy shit, I'm around a bunch of people that don't usually play Street Fighter, so I'm not unleashing the beast. But Phil taunted me, and I was like, holy shit, it's time to throw down. But he was like, whoa, what did I just do? And then I completely deflated and it ruined my whole night.
That's
So
not
hey,
true.
Phil, there's a question for you from the chat.
Yeah.
Because Steve was breaking down kind of game designs, and someone wanted to know if you could break down kind of the different concepts people tried for Gamma. Now that you've judged all the Gamma games, like what were the when someone made like a one button game, what did you kind of jump to?
Yeah, we noticed over the 154 games that we received that there were maybe only like 10 basic ideas that people explored, with a few exceptions. But a lot of games use the same kind of mechanics. There were a lot of games where something would, move to the left if you didn't press the button, and move to the right if you press the button, or rotate it left and right like that. That basic control idea was seen a lot. Another one was basic 4-player games that had a simple one-player kind of action, but where it was split over each player. So a game like somebody controls the orientation of a turret, somebody controls when to shoot, somebody controls when to explode the bullet. Kind of distributed single-player controls over 4 single-button players. I can't really think of any others now, but there were a bunch of basic trends that were popular.
Have you guys actually announced the finalists? Because I know people that you've told are finalists are kind of putting it up on Twitter.
We're not announcing it. We've told who was selected. Like we've selected 6 games, and we've told these people. Some of them have Twittered about it or posted on TIGSource. Some of them haven't yet. We're not telling.
Like a grab bag.
The
stocking on Christmas morning.
Yeah, Gamma is in 3 weeks now, I think. So
3, it's like 2.
2?
Yeah,
We're flying out 2 weeks from yesterday.
So yeah, we want to have still a little bit of a surprise element. Maybe people will manage to piece it together by then, but
yeah.
Oh shit! It's Mark Johns. Hey, Mark Johns. Here's a picture of Derek you naked for Mark Johns.
Oh my god.
yes.
That picture.
It's fake. I've already looked at it.
Wow. Where
Dude,
did this?
why'd you have to ruin the night, Ben?
Well,
It's okay.
it was one of
Use
those
your
ones where you
imagination.
can tell because the lighting on the head is totally different from the lighting
It's
on
like
the body.
the chin, like the shadow on the chin is really off. It's like facing the opposite way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the body has scars and tattoos and prison shit that we all know Derek doesn't have.
I don't know, Derek.
His body's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, God,
Yeah.
yes.
It's Cyrillic in nature.
Oh, God.
It's like an angel,
He is an angel.
basically.
God damn it, I love that man.
So, Phil, you're going with us to Jadik,
Yeah.
and that's going to be off the chain.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you going to do as soon as you get there? Because we kind of got a couple days before the conference actually starts. We all just going to find cool shit to do?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm probably gonna have some Gamma duties, but I said duties.
Duties.
Yeah, that's basically all I'm doing at GDC this year is Gamma. I'm not really doing anything else.
Yeah.
I have assigned myself the minimum possible amount of responsibility this year, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I can just sit back and enjoy this year.
What's the rant looking like for IGS so far?
It's looking good.
Do you actually know what the topics are?
Yeah, most of them. I'm pretty happy with the diversity of people I got this year. I was hoping for more women because last year was like half and half, but
yeah,
I used up all my ladies last year.
Wow,
yeah, I
you
saw
used
that there
them
was
up.
going to be a rant
There you
about the fact that there are no female designers in the IGF as finalists.
Yes.
And then I went and I added up, based on the contact information in the database, how many entries were done by female designers, and I think it was something like 2%.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the problem, if you want to look at it as a problem, there is that, like the selection criteria just didn't reward women, or just the fact that women are not entering games into the IGF.
Well, I think you've pretty conclusively proved there that women just aren't entering games in the IGF.
Yeah.
Which is a different
I
question.
think that's it right there.
I think it's maybe because they're all being too successful. So
Didn't Edmund enter 2% of the games? In the
Doesn't that mean Edmund is actually a woman? Isn't that what that actually means?
I think it was like, I counted up, I want to say like 8 games, which is 2.6%.
Yeah.
So, and there were individuals that have entered a number of games. Like there's like one year that we entered 5 games. Well, by 1 year I mean like 2004.
Phil, do you have something to do with organizing the rant that I didn't know about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that.
I organize it.
Nice. So do you contact people, or do people contact you when they?
Oh, I cherry picked everybody by hand with love.
So did you just not want to talk to females from last year again, or just in the name of keeping?
Oh, I just gave myself a basic rule of not repeating people every year.
Got it.
I wanted to have completely different people.
Got it. That's fair.
Which is one reason I'm not talking either.
What are the other reasons you aren't talking?
I don't want to make more enemies this year.
When have you ever done that before? I don't understand.
Is there a lesson or something?
There's a what?
Maybe, I'm not really sure. A lesson of some kind? I'm not sure.
Is there
Time
a
will
thing?
tell.
I don't get it. Oh well.
Has anyone actually looked at the GDC sessions outside of the IGS? Like, what are the really cool main competition, or not competition, but main conference? Everything.
No.
Everything's.
Aren't they all still kind of going up onto the site right now? Like,
they've announced like keynotes, and I think they've announced the good stuff and all the tracks. I don't know if the full schedule is up yet.
Yeah, I kind of thought it wasn't up yet.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still very interested because that's 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, we all have passes that can get us there, but I don't even think. Yeah, over 100 main conference sessions announced.
Experimental gameplay session, basically.
Yeah, there's like the experimental gameplay workshop and a couple other ones.
Ooh, let's talk about that. That's a good topic.
It's amazing how super popular they are now. The last year's room was huge. It was like a gigantic room for the.
It was the biggest.
You should get John Blow on for a year, or like a year, a show.
Year.
An hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could talk to him for an hour and not just have like tons of awkward silence.
Maybe you could.
We could try it.
If you did, then he would punch you through the internet.
Oh, you should ask Robin.
So the session has been shortened to an hour this year, as far as I'm aware.
Cactus has a main conference session?
He does?
Yeah.
What?
Abusing your players just for fun.
Oh my god.
No, wait, no, that's the IGS. They've kind of like merged it together.
Still.
They've messed it up.
Yeah, I mean, Cactus is speaking. Oh, that's probably where that half an hour went.
Cactus is in the rent too.
Oh, is that where that half an hour went? That's
Yeah.
So you're looking at a list that has them both on it?
Yeah, no, it this little S icon means Summit. I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Got it.
Hey guys,
anyway,
do you want to know
so
exactly who's in the rent this year?
What?
What?
We were kind of talking over people. What were you
Oh,
saying?
I'm sorry. I said I'm looking up a list of exactly who's speaking at the rent this year.
Oh, I see.
What is Anna speaking on?
I don't remember.
Professional.
Hey, there's a lot of them. I think we have 12 speakers this year.
Yeah, you have to crack the whip there, buddy.
Is there like a 5-minute
gonna
format or something to that effect?
Yeah, it's
It has to
it's
be,
kind
yeah.
of a Pechakucha inspired, but there's no specific restrictions as to number of slides or the media you use. It's just you have 5 minutes to do whatever you want as long as it somehow relates to independent.
Okay, so
We need to get dual laptops and actually have it so we can switch back and forth without like fucking with shit for a while.
Yeah, so like Adam Saltzman is going to be talking, Super Brothers, Cactus, Ryan O'Donnell from Area 5, Brendan Boyer, Farbs, Anna Entropy, Robin Hunicke, and Dr. Babsi Lip from Austria, I think.
yeah, she's Austrian. The Papermint
Yes.
art director.
It's a random note. Why do they let Peter Molyneux speak every year?
Well, because
No,
that's
he
all
has
he
weird-
does.
Games
Yeah.
only exist because of him. What the fuck are you talking
It's
about?
it's just the last talk I went to, at the risk of kind of like pissing off the conference or whatever, was terrible.
It was bad, yeah.
Well,
I
did he
don't
just
think
not
anyone
have
would
anything
deny
to
that.
say?
He had nothing insightful to say. I actually walked out. Like I was there with who's that? I was there with like Kyle Gabler and Kyle Gray, and we just
I
kind
was
of
there
looked at each
too.
other
We
halfway,
all
and
walked out
we just
together.
looked left, and like the whole time, like Kyle Gray was like doing notes on his iPhone. Like, this is boring. I'm gonna think about other stuff. I was like, okay, we need to go.
Yeah.
No, it was terrible.
I wonder if he's just out of things to say because Lord knows he said them.
Yeah, I think he's actually trying to say all of the things that it's possible to say before he dies, just so that he's got them all covered.
His portfolio of things that I have said must be filled.
It's very thick, yes. Okay, so returning to topic of experimental gameplay sessions, I posted a short rant to my blog, which is like the first blog post I put up in 2 years or something, about how when I finished my shadow physics talk and I watched the rest of the talks at experimental gameplay last year, I went and sat back down and I was just thinking to myself, has experimental game design essentially come to mean games that try to take a single mechanic and express them as fully as possible in the style of Braid or Portal or whatever? Because it seems like pretty much all the games that were shown last year, except for Ben Mergui's games and Spelunky, were like that. And it's an interesting question. It seemed to come up a lot in a lot of blog comments about the session, where people were saying, this used to be one of my favorite sessions, but now it's all the same thing. And I was kind of wondering if this particular branch of the experimental tree, whatever game, however you want to think about it, is kind of, getting overused or we're starting to define experimental too narrowly or whatever.
I think part of it might be the actual selection process. Like, that's probably a question for Blow. It seems to me that he was trying to pick games that weren't these one note, oh, it's just this cool experimental concept, and he was trying to find games that had taken that concept and then basically made permutations of it into puzzle level form, where it's like, oh, like I actually, Tyler's talked about this on the forums too, where it's like, closure is like this core concept. If you can't see it, it's not there. And then he's basically built a bunch of puzzles like around it. And
right.
you're kind of doing the same thing for shadow physics, and like that's kind of what Braid is. And
so it's an interesting question. It's like, are we painting ourselves into a corner there? So actually, I think that the most interesting game that I saw last year, because while I really like Ben Mergui's games, I find them somewhat unfulfilling for some reason because they are very short form. But I think the most interesting game I saw was Chris Hecker's game, the Spy Party game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people came away from that with a really bitter taste because he sort of got crazy nervous and his thing was crashing and he's having problems. But what I thought was fascinating about it is he's trying to take, a little 3D character in a game and make the really subtle motions of that character more meaningful in a game design sense. And I think that's a really fruitful avenue that hasn't been explored much. And I think part of the reason it hasn't been explored is because, it's really hard to make a good 3D animated character walk around anyway. But I think there's a huge amount of potential there. Because if you think about, for example, two people standing facing one another, right? If their faces are almost touching, that conveys one thing. But if they're 6 feet apart, that conveys something different. Or like if one of them is looking away, or if their posture is different. Like there's a huge amount of expressive there. And if you players can in control of that and try to actually make the game about that, that seems really interesting. And that kind of seems like what he's trying to do there.
Well, I think part of the symptom is that that's how you commercialize a game that's new and interesting. You basically have to break it apart into 20 levels or 30 levels of puzzle. So it's kind of like a question for you. Like if shadow physics were grant funded, like if you got a huge amount of money, like let's say some grant gave you $500,000 and said, make the best damn game you can that explores shadow physics, and don't worry about selling this thing on XBLA. Like, what kind of how would you change your game design process?
Is that like a question you're just genuinely asking?
Yeah. Like, it's like
If I had
if you didn't have to
$10
sell it on
million to
XBLA.
throw at it?
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
you didn't have to make your money back on it, like if you weren't trying to set this up to like spawn a company that will be around with 5 years of kind of
Right.
dependable income. Because I feel
I
like the
think
people that break it up, like their core mechanic into like, well, let's break this apart into like a bunch of puzzle levels, is a way to commercialize it. I think that's just kind of what they're doing there.
Well, for me, the process is about exploring the mechanic as fully as possible and finding all the interesting bits. So it just makes sense to me as a designer to approach design that way. It's like when I first saw John show the very first braid stuff, whatever, 7 years ago, like right before they showed the very first Spore stuff. At the time I saw it, I was like, wow, that's exactly how I want to make games. Like, that makes perfect sense to me. I totally understand what he's doing. It's amazing. That is awesome. I know that's going to be an amazing game. And it took him, 3.5 years to get it to be what it ended up being. But I knew the second I saw it, that resonated with me as far as design. And I knew that was a way that I wanted to approach design. For some people, that's not the case. Like the Heavy Rain guys, they want to make these weird interactive story games, and they need millions of dollars to do that. Now, if I get done with shadow physics and I feel like I understand the problem space of taking a unique mechanic like that and developing it out into completion, what I would consider completion, where you've sort of explored all the interesting branches and trimmed the ones that aren't so good, I think that, yes, I will want to try and do something that is about, human-to-human interpersonal interaction or something crazy, like something totally different. I have no idea what it'll end up being, but I definitely want to try something that's different and weird and crazy.
There's something implicit here that fascinates me, and I think what I was trying to hit on in the fact that if you're given money already, no matter how your game comes out, like when you say you want to explore the game design mechanic completely, I think what you're actually implicitly saying is that you want to explore it in a way that the player can experience all of it. And in my mind, the difference between like a commercial game and a game that would be like, grant funded or museum funded or like art gallery funded is that you could explore the mechanic in ways that maybe only 1 in 100 people could actually like understand this particular level. Like, oh, I get it. Like the way that like the shadow works here is totally different. And I think that's really hard to do. Like, I'm actually looking at the Steam global gameplay stats. So they actually tell you for all the achievements in the game what % of all players have got that in achievement. And in Braid, Closure, Complete the Game achievement, 31% of players. So 31% of Steam players that beat the game. And I think that's a vastly different way of exploring all of the gameplay possibilities. It's a way to explore all the possibilities and still make it digestible by the majority of players. Or I think 30% is a really, really high number.
I guess I don't see it as commercializing it. I see it as design due diligence. Like,
how important is it to you that your design is digestible by a player versus I've kind of done it as a designer and like I've explored it and I feel satisfied with that versus a player could actually like play through this and understand it.
Well, so I just pasted Tune into the TIGRadio. So that's an example of a game that I made that basically did everything that I wanted to. It explored this idea, but maybe 1 in 100 people could actually understand it and play through it.
Yeah.
And the people who understood it and played through it left me these really awesome comments, and it was really cool and fulfilling. But I felt like I didn't actually succeed in making the game that I wanted to make because it wasn't accessible to more people, right? It was so inaccessible to so many people that a ton of people just weren't able to engage with it. And I think that there's some basic level of craftsmanship that you have to engage to be able to get people to the place where they can experience what you want them to.
And I mean, I think a lot of us just kind of instinctually do this, but like, why is that important to you? Like, what's the articulation that you could come up with? Like, why is it important that more people can experience it?
I guess it's a concession to the fact that I'm creating entertainment, and there's a certain implied accessibility that has to happen if you're creating a piece of entertainment. And I don't know. I guess maybe it feels inelegant if you come up with a game that has this amazing experience waiting for people, but then so many people can't experience it. Like, I'm not interested in making it so that every casual player can play shadow physics or whatever crazy thing I come up with. But I feel like cartoon is lacking craftsmanship in the direction of usability. Like the reason why people figure out how to play the game is not because the mechanic is so challenging or the idea behind it is so crazy and out there. It's just because they need to do a better job of making it usable, like by having better goals that are easier to understand. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that sometime I might make a game that only one person out of 1,000 could play, and I'd be really, really happy if that one person got the experience that I wanted them to, but only if I felt like I had done, sort of my designer due diligence to get past that basic level of usability, or the idea was in fact so out there that only a certain small subsection of people can understand it and appreciate it.
So what you're saying is you're not indie.
Exactly.
Should have wrapped that full circle. Yeah, I mean, I've actually never thought too much about, like, because I also think it's really, really important to have your games be accessible. I never really thought down and be like, well, why am I compelled to do this? Like, part of it's just, well, I want to share my ideas, and not even my ideas, but I want to share the things that I think are important with other people. Like, that's kind of why I started up FunMotion and did other stuff. Was just, I think this is really fun. I think other people should also discover that this is really fun. Like, it's helping other people discover things. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
weird
that's
question.
exactly why. I mean, I guess we don't. There's a problem inherent in making video games that doesn't exist in many other forms of art, which is that, like if you look at a Marcel Duchamp painting, or you look at you watch a movie, the most films adhere to a certain type of craftsmanship, or most paintings adhere to a certain level of craftsmanship that allows most people who are interested and intellectually engaged to understand what's going on. And there are things like Shakespeare, and actually I would draw a probably parallel that I'm going to be mocked for to Spelunky, right? Where Shakespeare has this barrier of language, and you have to learn to understand it. Spelunky has this barrier of, oh god, it's really fucking hard, that a lot of people are never going to get over. But if you do get over it, there's a lot of goodness waiting for you there. And the same thing's true of Shakespeare or Dickens or whatever. There's really amazing stories that are waiting for you. And so it becomes a question of whether the onus is on the creator or on the the viewer, the person who's taking in the media, to take up that burden. And if you look at stuff like Shakespeare and Dickens and these artists and stuff, they were always writing in the sort of common language of their time, right? Like someone in Shakespeare's time could go to a Shakespearean play and understand it, and there wasn't a problem there. It was written for common people. It's only now that we have to sort of recurse it. So I think that if you create a game that uses tropes and things from current games that people are going to understand as a way of getting them into these different experiences, like the way that Braid does or the way that Portal does, then I think you're doing right. And past that, it's up to the player to figure out the crazy stuff they're showing them. But I think that basic level of usability is craftsmanship. It's like that analogy that you drew when you're driving to Peter Jungle that one time. It's like, I can just take a piece of paper and crinkle it all up and say, here's my amazing revolutionary new piece of origami. But you haven't gone through, the years of craftsmanship to learn how to do that. You just crinkled up a piece of paper. So I think there is a line that has to be drawn there.
Yeah, I actually think there's a lot of lessons to be learned about craftsmanship in terms of when you were saying, like, is the onus on the player or is it on the developer to make the game accessible and fun? I think games like Tory Bosch and Cortex Command are successful, but only because the player, like the onus on those games really is on the player. Like, you have to work to discover the fun in those games. And I think that's why their communities are so die hard. And because the communities by necessity, like the people that have gotten good enough at Cortex Command to enjoy the game, have invested themselves into it. So those community members are not going to be casual people. They've already invested so much time into it that they're like a baseline level of diehardedness, like a baseline level of loyalty.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just expressing my own personal design philosophy. Like, I think the slider goes in any direction you want it to. If you're the creator of a game, like the creators of Fortress, right? They don't give a crap about usability particularly. They put this all the way to, here's this crazy ass idea, and we don't really give a shit. We're gonna make it this insane, complicated thing. That's cool. It's just, I guess my personal philosophy is, I think it's possible to take a more balanced approach where you do put a little bit of love into what I guess we would call polish and usability, to make it so that people can play the game. I don't know. I get joy out of inspiring people. That's the whole reason I do what I do. I want to make something that inspires people. And I don't know if I've ever succeeded at really doing that, but that's the metric that I use for my favorite pieces of art and my favorite novels and my favorite, films and games and stuff. If it inspires me to create, then that's sort of my metric for success. That's what I consider a really amazing game. If I get done with the game and like, wow, I really feel inspired to go create now. So I got playing Shadow of the Colossus and Ocarina of Time and XCOM and Splunky, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and so on.
Rad. Well, we have 5 minutes left in the show, so any parting concepts or thoughts?
I think we covered a lot of ground. I don't really know how to wrap all that up. I guess I should make a blog post out of this.
Yeah,
I wish you'd post more to your blog. It's been a long time. I was so happy to see that new post.
I'm embarrassed by the design now. I want to put a new design in. But I also want to put up an enemy airship site and start posting to that too. So I guess I should just start posting and then I'll recross post when I get this set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went a year and 3 months between posts.
Well, I was busy making Blurst games.
Blurs.
Thanks for that, Matthew, by the way. Wasting our time.
Actually, Blurst was like the coolest thing ever, actually. It was like Game Design University. It was so rad.
Thanks for bankrolling a year of cool games. Jerks.
My blog.
Thanks for bankrupting the company at the benefit of cool games. Oh no, we said too much. Yeah, by the way, if anyone's listening and has like a rich uncle that has like $100,000 and wants to angel invest in a project that might be like a game based on killing raptors.
A rich paleontologist uncle.
In all total seriousness.
I only have like $98,000.
Dude, we need John Hammond.
Yeah, where's John Hammond? Fucking call him.
He would fund that
It's
shit.
right up your alley. I love John Hammond.
You're supposed to be defending me from these characters. The only one who's on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer.
How much do you love him? I want to hug him so bad.
Do you know that actor is David Attenborough's brother?
I did not know that.
Oh no, you do.
Oh, he's at the battle.
That's why we love you, Phil.
Good night.
Later.
Well, oh man, 2 weeks at GDC. That blows my mind.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I need to actually like make a list on paper. I don't make paper lists very often these days. I just kind of there's actually this phase of Flashbang where I have crazy amounts of schedules and mind maps and notes and things and whiteboards, and then later it just kind of went back to totally internal. But I need to make a list of like, oh, business cards and oh, our Raptor Safari cards and like, oh, new T-shirts and all that shit.
Yeah, I need to print some business cards. Good God. And maybe some shirts or something.
I think the word is bidness.
Oh, Aaron
Yeah,
Robinson's in the chat.
Mad business.
Call
Bidness.
it ambulance.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to re-up your business cards.
oh man, I can't wait for Aaron and or Kyle to have like a panic attack right before the show.
Oh God.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing to say. I can't wait till they just have a fucking nervous breakdown right in front of me so I can laugh at them.
No, actually, what I honestly cannot wait for is after the IGF portion of the show, we all like all the hosts, like it used to be Andy and us, now it'll probably just be me and Steve, like, and then Kyle and Aaron sit backstage and drink, and then every winner that comes up and like walks off backstage has to walk past us, and then we basically like shake their hand and take a photo and like whisper weird things in their ears. It's a totally like the post IGF backstage experience is totally awesome because A, it's really neat, and B, it's like hyper exclusive. Like, oh, you've had a role in hosting the IGF. Enjoy your hour of drinking.
Yeah.
Good for
And then
you.
you get to have your picture taken with Hideo Kojima, and you have a boner, and it's hard to hide it.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally pitching one.
I got
It's
two
so
pictures
embarrassed.
with Kojima, and yeah, they are from like right below the nipples up because you do not want to see the bone. Yes.
Nobody told me I had to go
Tommy
backstage
put-
when I
Tommy
won. I just
put-
jumped off the stage.
Wait, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to be ushered backstage to like a press room or some shit.
Yeah, but you're too.
But they don't tell you that.
Well, the awards girl was supposed to like grab your arm.
She failed at that.
It's actually structured
What a bitch.
so that like we're supposed to stand, or whoever like does the actual announcement is supposed to stand to your right, and then the awards girl is literally supposed to stand to the other direction, so you like can't walk off where you came out. But I guess if you just jumped off the stage, then you didn't go down the stairs or whatever.
You need a second girl standing in front of the person.
Dan Tabar shirtless? What?
That's
Please
not
don't
what
make
he
him the
said.
trophy girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Ready, son.
No.
If you have any wet laundry that you need to dry, he will be on
Oh
hand.
God, no.
That was
Oh,
the set
sweet.
of me playing a prog rock bass solo while Ben wipes laundry on Dan's chest.
Yeah, and Aaron said he's actually the butt of at least one joke. We actually did want to have him come up shirtless and give out the technical award, but I don't think he actually will. So I've
Yeah, he will.
Well, yeah, he still needs a pass. Speaking of,
Wrap it
up.
well, actually, let me. Our hour's up. Let me wrap up
Yeah,
the
let's
show.
wrap it.
Yeah.
Fine, go. You've stayed your hour.
All right. I have this thing I'm supposed to read somewhere. Where is it? Oh,
TIG Radio is brought to you by Matthew
Hey,
Wagner.
it's brought to you
no,
by-
no. Special thanks to our guest Steve Swink and our special call-in guest Phil Fish.
No
Take it up,
It was put
problem.
on by Matthew Wagner, Ben Reese, and Tommy Reffinus. TIG Radio theme song by Danny Baranowski. TIG Radio website by Kyle Pulver. TIG Radio is proudly sponsored by absolutely nobody. And see you next week. I think that's the last show before GDC, and then we'll actually have like a show at GDC. So if you want to be on the show, just find whatever bar we're at. See you guys next week.
Whatever.